and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. My today guest is Cherie Harrington, and ever since she was 8, she has been connecting and leading people. Back then, it was in the Tree Houses Adventures, and today she leads and motivates people of all ages in personal and professional journeys. She values her faith, adventure, joy, fitness, honesty, leadership, health, and well-being. I love this introduction because in few words, she really told us what is important to her. Cherie, so nice. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you today.
Oh, it's so lovely. And I don't know if I can say it, if you're okay with that, but you just got a great news yesterday.
Yes, the news has been around for a few days. It wasn't publicized, I should say, until yesterday, I think it was. But yes, last Wednesday, so a week ago today, today's Tuesday. Last Wednesday, before the 4th of July, on July 3rd, my oldest daughter brought my first granddaughter into the world.
Well, congratulations. That's so much fun. That's gonna be a whole new focus now. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Well, you and I met through social media. I noticed you with somebody I knew, and I approached you, and there was something about you that was inviting, and some kind of aura around you that felt like I need to talk to you. And then we had a super nice conversation, and realized we have so much in common. I would love to have the opportunity to share your story here and see who you were as the 8 years old in charge. And what did you want to do when you grow up, and how did you get where you are today? If you can just like fill the dots for us in that beautiful bio of yours.
Wow, that's a long time from 8 years old until today.
I know.
And you asked a few questions there as far as what I wanted to do when I grew up and what I'm doing today. And transparently, Vera, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I was playing in the treehouse. I was riding my horse. I was playing with the bunny. I was doing all things that kids my age did at that time. I didn't have a phone. I came home when I got hungry. And if I didn't come home when I got hungry, I came home before the sun went down because that's when the coyotes and all the other animals would come out. So I had to come home to be safe.
Where did you
Um,
live?
I lived in a small town on the east side of Washington State,
Mhm.
not too far from Idaho. And we had 10 acres and just miles and miles between me and my best friend. So I'd ride my horse or I ride my bike to my best friend's house.
That sounds
And
like dreamy childhood. Beautiful.
it was fabulous to live that until I was in 6th grade, I think, when my parents parted their ways. And that was the beginning of the next phase of my life. That next phase from 6th grade through, gosh, Vera, I don't really know the end of that next season, but that season started in 6th grade and moved from state to state with my parents, separate parents in separate states. Um, and then also moved into different schools. I had the opportunity to be in 3 different elementary schools,
Mhm.
3 different middle schools, 3 different high schools. And so I learned by trial by fire, if you will, how to make friends because I was constantly moving. And speaking of constantly moving, I lived in 13 different places in one academic year.
Wow. Yeah, it's quite a lot of variety, that's for sure. How did you take it when as a child? It could be very hard on psyche.
I know now what I didn't know then.
Yeah.
And I know now that my Heavenly Father, my God that I believe in, Heavenly Father, I believe He was watching over me and He was helping me build resiliency.
Yeah.
He was helping me know that I am who I am because I was always around someone else. There was always another person to emulate or a person to model after, but that was always changing. And because that wasn't consistent, because there wasn't a consistent person or a consistent view in my life, I did me. I lived me, and I'm very grateful again now, knowing that it was my Heavenly Father who kept me grounded during that time.
Yeah, and it built you into who you are. And when what you mentioned in that bio when you were leading since you were 8 years old, I think there was something in you, possibly the strength that were pushing you forward no matter what, and it just straightened you into who you are today. It's definitely all the struggles in our lives are there for a reason. It's just we don't know it at the time we are in them. Yeah.
Exactly.
So how did your life progress when you kind of did you settle on a school? Did you know what you want to do then? A little later?
No, ma'am, I did not. So, outside of telling an adult in my life, I am going to own my own company someday. I didn't know what it was. Didn't really know what I was saying. I was 19 when I was saying that. I was working at a public accounting firm and working full time and then going to school at night full time for a business degree. And if you put working full time and going to school full time together, that's many hours.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I've got to stay awake while I read my anatomy textbook. And it sounds so weird to say, Vera, but in that day we had textbooks. Like I had a textbook, it wasn't an online course. And I would fall asleep on my lunch break reading my book. And so the secretary would have to come back and wake me up so I could go back to work. And so what I figured out, if I ride a stationary bike, my legs are going, I can't fall asleep, right? I'll just stay awake. So I would read my anatomy and physiology book on this stationary bike. And I started physically moving all the time because that's how I stayed awake. And I started taking an exercise class, and I thought, okay, this is going to help me because then I'll be super energized. And so, long story short, while I was working full time and going to school full time, I also started teaching exercise classes.
Because you didn't have enough on your plate. But that, that's fascinating because kids your age in that situation would reach for some quick fix, or some substance to stay awake. You did the opposite. You did something that is amazing for your body, actually. That's brilliant. Love it.
Well, I appreciate you using the word brilliant because when I went to the manager and said, hey, forward feedback, we are doing, jumping jacks and all the things, and my heart rate is up, and then we go down and we are doing these sit-ups and it's unsafe. And because I was taking my physical education classes, right? So I was doing my exercise science, I was doing the cardiac rehab, I was blending these things. And they said, oh, we're looking for new instructors. Whoa, no. And 2 weeks later, I was in front teaching that step class. And as I was teaching that step class day after day after day at 5 a.m., I realized this is really what I want to be doing. And so I was working on my business degree, and I pulled my graduation papers because I was supposed to graduate, pulled my graduation papers so that my loan wouldn't come due. And I applied and spent more time in school in education for my physical education degree with my minor in exercise science. And when I did go that different path in my mind and made a shift in my education, I did stop working at the accounting firm. I thought, going to the law firm's offices and entering all their checks into their system and bringing their profit and loss statement, bringing their balance sheet back to the office and working on their tax returns and all of those things were not fulfilling me. They weren't helping me stay awake.
Yeah.
And so I did leave corporate at that time, and I thought, by golly, I'm going to be one of those high paid personal trainers.
But I think I like the moment in the law firm, I mean, in the accounting firm, because that's a useful experience for entrepreneur as well. It's very good when you know your numbers and when you know what to do. So that wasn't waste of time either, I'm assuming. Yeah.
No.
So that's interesting. When you mentioned that, when they first mentioned that they are looking for instructor, your first reaction was no. Why was that? Did you think that it's too much on your plate already, or why was that first
Yeah.
reaction? So
Yes, I did, Vera. I think, wait, how would this work?
yeah,
I work from 8 to 5, and then I go to class from 6 to 10 at night, and I do homework from 10 until 2 or 3, and then I'm sleeping until 4:30 to teach a class. Like, how
yeah.
that doesn't seem, I was 19. That doesn't seem good for my sleep pattern. That doesn't seem good for homework.
Hmm.
Okay, but sure. And I did.
I see. Yeah. Hey, we can take a lot when we are young. That we can today.
Yeah.
But so did you have a model, an entrepreneurial model in the family, or somebody that put that dream in you, or did you just always felt like you need to be in charge for yourself?
I love that question in this moment that you ask it. What comes up for me is thinking back to those 13 places I lived in that one year, thinking back to the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high schools. I wasn't in control of any of that.
That's right. Yeah.
And what I had seen of others, whether it was, other college kids, or what I had seen at them running this health club, or what I saw at the law firms, is there were certain people that had certain pieces or aspects of their life in their control. And however I saw it, wherever I saw it, by golly, that was going to be me. I was going to be able to be the one that was in control of what I was doing,
Yeah.
not what was happening at me, what I chose to do, how I chose to look at something.
So that's a common thread with people that have the entrepreneurial dream in them, that at certain point you realize that you are unemployable, that you need to have more control over how you do things, what the values are. And you stated in your bio a lot of your values that are super important for life. If I may compare to my own experience, I have been on the employer side and employee side. And once you play with that, you start realizing as an employee, you would do things differently and you have no power to do so. You disagree with the policy of the company and you have no power to change it. So you assure yourself more and more that you need to be in charge of these things so you can be true to your values. Is it a similar for you, maybe?
I'm shaking my head yes, like, let me just come at the video camera a little bit more, but the sun would be right in my eyeball. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, it does match up with then the next phase that we haven't yet talked about, but exactly that.
Mhm. Well, and also from the three houses, you were not follower, you were a leader. Even though you were being dragged around to different places, you stood up for yourself all the time. It seems, like you are that type of person that finds its own space to be a leader for. And I'm sure you, even though it's super hard on kids to move from place to place, I'm sure you didn't have that much issue to find friends. I would guess you would
You're
have
very
people
kind.
attracted to you.
You're very kind.
I don't know. I'm assuming. I'm just like, there is something about you that attracts people to you. There is no, not everybody has it, it's just naturally, you are a leader, but you are not arrogant in it. You know what I mean? It's just like people naturally feel like they want to follow you because you know the way.
Well, and I'm tearing up as you say that because I'm so blessed to have you say that to me. And I'm honored to say you're not the first person that has said that.
Yeah.
And when I moved just a couple years ago from Eastern Washington State down to Florida, I met many people for the first time at the apartment complex or at church or networking wherever it was, and people just say the same thing, not just, but people say the same thing.
Yeah.
Cherie, there's just this thing about you. And again, I'm just so honored to hear that from you. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's there. It's I don't know. It is that, like there's the American Idol and the X Factor. It's not like, I don't want to make a cheap statement or something, but there is something, certain people have this aura around them that it's naturally attracting people to them and naturally repel a-holes, I would hope, because you have the dominance and the respect kind of like presence, but it's not scaring people away. That's the probably way to, which I'm sure was very, very, very useful in your career as a personal trainer. So let's go there. How did it go?
It was going very well, and I say was, so that kind of gives you an idea that it was and not is. It was very well. It taught me how to, again, as I had in my childhood, duck and weave or pivot and be ready for the next move. And so I use that as a metaphor that I was training a client in her home because she didn't have the money for a membership. First clue, she doesn't have money for a membership. So when she needs to cut other money, she's going to cut the personal trainer, and rather than the food budget or the power bill, which I understand. We all have our finances that we need to be aware of. So as I was personal training her and the budget was cut, I thought, oh, I know, I can go back to the health club. That's where I started. I have my group exercise certificate. I have my personal training certificate. I have my physical education degree from a college, from a 4-year university. I can go back to the health club. Well, I go back to the health club, and guess what? There's the employer, and I'm now the employee. I then was making money for the company. As I made money for the company, of course, I was making money. I had the opportunity to have a paycheck, and I had the opportunity for some, let me shift. Does that change it a little bit? Sorry, it's changing the lighting.
Beautiful.
I was getting my commission. However, the commission is a certain rate, depending on how many sessions you sell. And of course, I wasn't getting all the money that the person was paying. And so it was quite challenging.
All right. Well, We are back. We had to move Cherie a little bit because she was becoming darker and darker. There was some weird spot. She's at her friend's house, and it's beautiful, beautiful old style house. But yeah, as she was becoming darker, we moved a little bit. So now you have the kitchen background, which is totally fine, but we can see your face. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
Thank you
were
so much.
talking about how you were working for the health club and what it was, how it was settling for you. Uh,
And as I was working for the health club, I was making money, which was helpful at that time. I was paying bills. However, as you had mentioned earlier, there were policies and procedures in place that didn't benefit everyone and commission ceilings, if you will.
Mhm.
And I decided I was no longer going to be a personal trainer at the health club. I would still teach my group exercise classes. I would still work at the accounting firm. It just, yeah, so it was an ebb and flow for a few years before I ended up having my first child.
Did you plan to set up on your own at that time, or what was going on in your mind? Because you know, it's one thing to have a so-called security of the paycheck, but then now you having or expecting family, it's the responsibilities kicks in, and it's not such an easy decision as when you were single or by yourself. So what did you do?
So I appreciate you knowing that it's not an easy decision and there are additional responsibilities. And I I put that on the back burner. I put me on the back burner
Hmm.
because I wanted to raise this child who is the one that just had the child last week. I wanted to raise her and give her many of the things that I didn't have when I was growing up. And I really wanted her to be my focus. And I wanted just different things for her. So I put my entrepreneur thoughts, ideas, everything on the back burner and did all things as a stay-at-home mom. So gosh, we're getting a lot deeper than I anticipated today, Vera.
It's like psychoanalysis, you know. It's like you are sitting, you're lying on the couch just talking about your life. And I don't like, if it's too personal, you can tell me. You don't, were you single parent at that time, or did you have a partner?
I was not a single parent at that time, and I am transparent. I'm pretty open book. In fact, as I'm sharing that phrase with you, it reminds me of one of the women's retreats that I had the opportunity to speak at. And God wanted me to talk about intimacy and how, as women, we can be intimate with each other. And when He gave me the word intimacy, I painted with acrylic paint on a white t-shirt. And if you say the word slower, I'll say it for you. Into me you see. Intimacy is into me you see.
Wow.
So I try to be transparent. I try to be open. And so we can go to whatever level we end up going to today. So personal level, into me, you will see as we move forward.
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's not that I'm digging to get some, sensations, but it's the people that listen to my podcast, or I would hope so, uh, can recognize themselves in some of the stories, and it may help them overcome things that they may feel that are you know, impossible at the moment. And so I do believe that these details that makes us all human can help somebody else, that they can recognize, well, she has done it and this was not easy, and so maybe it gives them the strength that they are looking for or
Mhm.
inspiration. So that's my whole reason, and it makes you human, of course. And because you kept saying I, and it sounded like there was nobody else in your life to help you with that, so that's why I brought it up.
Well, thank you. And as you say that, it comes up within me and for me right now of I am an avid people watcher.
Mhm.
In fact, I went with the friend who owns this house I'm in right now. I went with her to a farmer's market, and she was at a booth, and then she turned around and saw me just standing there, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm great. I'm just people watching. I love seeing how different every person is,
Mhm.
how different every person's stance is, their facial expressions, how they hold their body, what clothes we choose to wear of the ones that we have. I just love taking in people. And so when I think about how I was raised or how I grew up or the places I lived, the schools I went to, it gave me so many more people to see.
Mhm. That's
You know,
right.
at those three different elementary schools, I didn't have one class that I went all the way through elementary school with. I had the opportunity to learn from so many, to watch so many.
Yeah.
And and when you ask me, you know, who was that mentor? Who, you know, who did I learn entrepreneurial from? I just absorb from as many people as I can in hopes that I'm able to give to as many people as I can.
You know, it's interesting what you just said, because I'm thinking, you know, in some measures, you didn't have ideal childhood. For some people, it would be a source of distraught, or, you know, I have divorce in my family and I was moving from place to place. You can use it as an excuse or as a weakness, as a stress factor, or you can use it as a building block to build your strength. And I think what you just said was so beautiful, because you are not watching people with judgment. You are watching people to see who they are. There's almost some artistic part of it where you maybe, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but that's what came to me when you were saying that. Like, maybe you are watching people and you imagining their story, like based on what they wear, how they carry themselves. You may, like, just be inspired to think about, I wonder what they live like, you know, what their life is like. It's just that's again that goes to that peacefulness leadership in you that attracts people, because you are not standing there in judgment as many people are. And for me, I came from family where my mom was very judgmental of everybody else,
Mm.
and she would assume things about other people, and she would badmouthing them without knowing any details. And I hated it as a child. And I just like, but I noticed some trace of it in me, and I'm working hard on it to not have it, because I know how bitter it is and how distractive it is for me, you know. And my mom is no longer here, but she never got rid of it till she was old age, you know, until I learned to live with it and kind of manage it for me so it doesn't upset me, because I realized she's not gonna change. But it's when I was listening to you, there was not a smidgen of, like, I'm watching people and, you know, judging them. It's more like you growing on watching people and just seeing them thrive and imagining who they. This is beautiful. I absolutely love it, Cherie.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate those kind words. And as you were talking um, about the your mom and her trait, and what you're working on. I appreciate your transparency too. I'm reminded of when I'm teaching PE, if I want the students to walk, I ask them to please walk. I give them the word that I want their brain and then their body to focus on, which is walk,
Mhm.
which is different than what could be. I could be saying, don't run.
Yeah.
Their ears hear run, their brains hear run, and they're already running. So I'm just continuing that cycle.
Yeah.
So I have them focus on the don't run, but it's the negative of the word that I don't want them to do. And so it's very confusing to
Yeah.
the brain,
It is.
especially sixth graders. And so what I want them to focus on this side is walk, because Coach Cherie said we're playing walking plank tag. So feet need to be walking. So we're going to focus on the walking. So if I could be bold and offer to you, rather than I'm working on this judgment that I took from my mom, I'm working on this trait that I have, that I see bitterness, we could focus on, I'm seeing the positive of who Vera is. I'm seeing the positive of how I'm growing.
Oh yeah.
Even at this age. So we're focusing on this side,
Yeah.
of where our brain and our hearts want to be.
Oh, I definitely took a long ways from that place where I was really being distraught by my mom, and it's funny you mention it, because I haven't seen her for years, because I moved to America in 2002, and the first time I was able to fly back was 2016. So that's been a really long time. And in the meantime, we were only in contact on over the phone, because my mom didn't operate computer, so we couldn't see each other. But it was interesting because there was a million reasons why I couldn't go earlier, but one of the most important was also for me to be sure that I visit her when I'm fine and in peace with myself. So I don't let her dragging me to some guilty places, like, it's all the coaching and the personal development. It's basically about, we became a better person that we wish we were when we started seeking for the help.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I worked on it really hard, and I was so proud, because I went there when I was 100% sure that I will enjoy it. I'll enjoy my time with mom, and we did. And anytime I could sense that my mom would like to bring it somewhere else where it wouldn't be comfortable, I just gently led her back to what was interesting for both of us, so she enjoys herself. But I didn't let her go there, and it was so empowering, because something that we can, it's like, that's the first truth that I learned when I started doing personal development, is you cannot change other people, you can only change yourself. And that was biggest lesson for me, because I think we all kind of try to change other people to our image, which is impossible, of course, but it's just so, it teaches you to appreciate the difference in other people. We are not all the same, we are made unique for a reason, but it's, the person is either there to teach you a lesson, or give you love, or stay with you forever, or stay with you for a season and maybe leave. It's absolutely fine. And I don't know how we got on this path, but it's the comfortable thing that we are on the same page on these things. And it's, yeah, I definitely was proud of myself when I got to point when I realized I want my mom the way I imagine her, because she's my mom and she's my only mom, and she's gone now. So I'm really glad that we did that. And I didn't ask her to change. I changed. I changed how I receive it. I changed what triggers me. And there's somebody smart just said, I saw it somewhere on social media, I'm not triggering, you are triggered. it's the thing that we are sensitive about. It's usually something that triggers something inside of us that needs to work on. So I never take things that upset me or somebody kicks something in me that may not seem comfortable. I don't look at it as how dare he or she. I look at it as what is it trying to teach me? And that's very peaceful place to be in, because I believe everything in our life is there to teach us something. And so was the meeting you, because I have that sense that you have strong story in you, and I wanted to unwrap it. So let's go back to that, because that podcast is not about me. So let's go back. So you have a daughter. What is happening with your dreams, and how is everything doing in your life? You were still in the where did you live at that point?
So I was in Washington at that time. So um, yeah, still in Washington. I had a short time I lived with some family in Utah, and I came back to Washington. And at that time, I was I was a mom. I was exploring outside, you know, sitting in the grass with her and taking her to the neighbor's pool and doing all those things. And um, then I real fast speed version ended up having my second daughter. So Hosanna is my oldest daughter's name, and Hope is my youngest daughter's name. I wanted my
How
kids to
many you
be,
gave them?
I wanted them to be a year and a half apart, and that didn't work. That wasn't one thing that was in my control, but I tried. Um, so that's why her name is Hope. So yes, Hosanna and Hope are my kids. And then yeah, raising both of them and being the Girl Scout leader, being the volunteer in the classroom, all the field trips. I was at the elementary school almost every single day, and the new principal said, "I don't think I've met you. Are you here on staff?" And no, I'm a volunteer. And she said, "You're here every day."
Wow.
Yes, yes, I am.
Well, because that leader in you can't help it. That's just you want to help. You want to be in service. That's wonderful. Plus, you were close to your kids as well.
Yes, and my kids as friends.
Yeah.
So when we had the 2.5 acres and the chickens and the cows and the goats and the fruit trees and the vegetable garden, that was my full-time job, was taking care of that whole place. Then her friends would come over, and then when Hope got older, her friends were coming over, and Vera now starting to see some of my dreams and things come back out. I was still teaching classes at a local YMCA. I actually, before I came to Florida, was on staff at the YMCA for 23 years. And so I was still teaching exercise classes and being able to partner alongside people that wanted to look at their physical activity, thinking all the way back to when I was riding that recumbent bike and teaching classes at 5 in the morning, and still teaching early classes. I was talking to another mom at the elementary building, and she talked about this basketball team that she was coaching. And so I started teaching well, I didn't call it boot camp at the time, but it was really like boot camp.
Yeah.
But teaching fourth grade basketball players exercise on my property. So they were moving concrete blocks, and they were throwing tires, and they were doing all the things on the property. So I was leading younger people in exercise too.
Yeah, that's fabulous. But I remember when we talked, you also encounter some challenges, medical challenges yourself. And when did that start?
I was diagnosed with my first autoimmune disorder in 2009, I believe it was. And then not too long after that, in 2013, is when I became single. at that point, I was then needing to work full time instead of being in the building, the elementary building, middle school building full time. I was then working full time to support both my kids, raising them as a single mom, still having the goats and the garden and a couple other things. And then my second diagnosis in 2019 wasn't until I was in intensive care unit in the hospital for a few days.
Oh,
So yeah, that kind of put a tap in the brakes, massively pushing the brakes, so to say,
sure.
at that time.
And here you are, the person who exercised her whole life, very active. I'm assuming your diet was pretty good as well, which I don't know anything about, of course. But you know, seemingly you would be person as a picture of health. You are teaching others how to move and everything, and you are constantly moving. But of course, the stress factor and what you put through your body through a lot of work and a lot of physical activity may have been contraindicating too. So did they tell you what caused it, why it showed up?
Not necessarily. They told me why or, you know, what to do other than take particular medications. I do now, not then, but now manage my sleep. So earlier in our conversation, you know, I was going to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning or a little bit earlier, getting up early. Now I'm pretty consistent with my sleep. I say pretty consistent, just depends on time changes and talking to my kids. However, I'm very consistent with my eating, very consistent with my exercise, and my exercise varies. I don't ever do the same workout twice.
Mhm.
I do different forms of cardio. I'm at the gym. I'll use hand weights or I'll use stretch bands. I'll use the machines. This morning was yoga at home. So it's always changing. My body does get bored. And so I'm constantly changing it. And because my body gets bored, my brain gets bored.
Right.
So very in tune to my eating. I've been eating plant-based or vegan for a few years now and absolutely love it. I take it on as a challenge of all the different pieces of food that I can put together and how it comes together as a meal. So yes, I'm definitely in a different place than I was when I was 19 because I am managing the sleep, the exercise, the food, and my stress level.
Well, we also,
Yeah.
our body changes with age, and we need to put more effort into keeping it functioning. And especially when you were diagnosed, I'm sure you realize you have certain challenges that you need to manage. And funny part is really like going to the traditional route of health. It's all there is for you is pills that would manage the symptoms, but do really not much for improving the conditions. And luckily, you were educated enough about the body and everything that surrounds it to be able to find answers for yourself because it's missing. It's missing there. It's uh, many people go and they are satisfied with being told diagnosis and get the pills to manage the symptoms and that they consider that healthcare. And it's not in my book because unless you change something about your lifestyle or you dig deeper how you can help your body to improve, those pills are not going to do that. Those pills might create new issues you never had before because of the side effects. So it
Yeah.
is a sad state of what we are surrounded by, and it's really up to individual to find their own ways to do the research or to educate themselves or seek qualified help to help them become better and not only manage the symptoms but maybe improve the conditions of because the
And
body.
as you mention each person, the word advocate keeps coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I am an advocate for myself. And if that can help others, that's a benefit.
Yeah.
So there are certain medications that I still am on, and I take those in the morning, and then I take certain vitamins and supplements at night. And so I've learned to manage those because I've been advocating for myself with each of the specialists that I meet with. And I would encourage every person to do the same, is to
Yeah.
be an advocate, to be a researcher for themselves, because as we've said multiple times, every person is different. Every body
Yeah.
is different.
Yet we all have the bodies given to us, or we were born into bodies that are this brilliant self-repair machine that, if given right tools, the body is capable of correct and repair many things that, just simply throw medication at it wouldn't do anything. So it is in everybody's individual to be kind of empowered and realize it's not just up to my doctor, it's up to me to do something for my health. And I can't expect to be lying on a couch feeding myself with chips, watching TV, and my body miraculously does the work. It's not working like that.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So how do you, all this experience, again, like we talked before, happened to you for a reason, I guess. And how are you using it today in what you do?
How I'm packaging it, using it today, is I allow it to fuel all these passions of mine. And I had someone say to me recently, well, who is your ideal client? Because they know that I'm a life coach. And so they ask, who is my ideal client? Or they say, what is your niche in 4 words? Unfortunately for some people, unfortunately for myself, fortunately for Cherie, I don't fit in a box. You're not going to put Cherie in a 14 by 9 by 4 box. You're not going to put me in some standard size box that you're going to get from Amazon or UPS or FedEx. And so, with my multiple passions, I love to be able to teach mental education through physical activity with those 6th graders in a couple middle schools. I love to be able to lean into hear someone's story, whether it is the ticket agent at the airport or it is the checker at the UPS store that tells me about her daughter-in-law's midlife crisis. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I love to lean in and hear those stories. And as I hear those stories, sometimes that leads to a potential client for me to come alongside because they are stuck. They want to get there. They don't know how that they want to get there, but
Yeah.
that's where they want to go. And so I stand next to them and help them to manage their chronic illnesses, or to manage their work schedule, or to manage their kids' schedule alongside their work schedule. And so the organization of time and the organization and management of health and working out and eating and sleeping to get there, I love to help them. I love to stand next to organizations to help them with policies and procedures to help their employees be enhanced rather than reduced at work. And so how has my story led me to where I am now? Locking elbows with people, locking elbows and partnering with them to be able to move forward rather than fall backwards and fall down. I'm there in a staggered stance, right? I'm prepared to do a lunge or a squat, and I'm ready. Try to push me over. You're not going to be able to push me over. You may push me over, but I'm not going to fall down. And I want to help other people continue doing that in all capacities.
This is what is needed today. This is, we have enough of negative news and negative influences and a lots of buzz all day long that people have hardly time to sit down and think for a minute, or just listen what their body is telling them. And I think this is so important that we have people and leaders like you who not only stop and listen to somebody's story, which is on its own admirable, because who who is listening today? You know, it's it's it brought me back to when I was in sales career years back, and I succeeded because I was able to listen to people. Not only listen for the answer that I want to hear or while I was preparing the response in my head, but listen, to be there for that person. Because if you think of it, we don't have enough of that in our closest circle sometimes. People are so obsessed with themselves and their own problems. They are just impatiently waiting for you to finish so they can start talking again. And it seems like the more communication we have, the more alone we are. So just that one trait of you, that you are there to be and stand and listen to somebody's story, it's so needed today. And I love it because that's what makes a great coach. You have to be able to offer the ear, and maybe it will point out to things that that person cannot see because they are in their bubble of the problem. And for that reason, sometimes you can see the larger picture, and that's where a great coach comes in and can put the light, the shine the light on it. And I think that's what's brilliant about you, and how all that's why we dig so deep into your life experiences, because I believe everything that happened to us in life makes us who we are. And
Absolutely.
it and even though I didn't mean it package as like you package it, tie it in the box. No, no, no. I meant it how you use it in your practice today, which obviously everything that you experience yourself, you can now see the ways. Even the time management you touched on, because the time management for somebody who was sleeping for 2 hours a day, definitely you have done a lot. And everybody has 24 hours. Now, of course, we look at it differently because we need certain hours to rest so the body can repair. But it's the organization of the hours we have that makes all the difference, because there are some people that feel that they are busy, busy, busy and get nothing done. And there are some people with the right focus and help can do a lot done at the same time. So the difference is like athletes. An athlete can be a really talented athlete, but a brilliant athlete has a mentor or coach that is pushing him higher and focusing on strengths and seeing things that the athlete cannot see for himself. So maybe that metaphor comes to mind because you are very focused on physical aspect of health. But that's the reason why I do this podcast, because there are people that are looking for help and they are not sure whom to reach out to. And if this story resonated with you, the story of Cherie, she went through a lot, but if you watching it on YouTube, she is a sunshine of a person. There is no bitterness in her, no regrets. It's you take what you are dealt with and you make the best out of it. She's the model child of that, in my opinion. That's what I that's what I felt about you from the first time we met, and we never met in person. It's just we need people like that, people like you in life today, for sure, because everybody can complain and everybody can be drilling on the old same stories that don't move us anywhere. It becomes identity and excuse. But if you really are committed to do something about your life, you need to seek out help. Somebody like Cherie, if she's the one person that will resonate with you, please reach out. I will post all the links to her on in the show notes. I know your website is still not done, right? But you are on
My
social
team is so close on the website. I'm super excited about it, and it is multifaceted because Cherie is multifaceted, multi-passionate, and so it's been a learning experience for all parties involved. So yes,
yeah.
it will be live. I do not have a go live date, but it will be live. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if anybody needs to reach you, I'll post whatever links I have available for you, and you can reach to Cherie yourself. And I also noticed that you mentioned that you are in preparation of a retreat in next year, so that would be fun, because sometimes you just need to get out of your element and do something radical to be able to focus on yourself. Because especially as women, we are really experts on putting ourselves last. And we get to point when everything blows in our face, and then we are surprised that our health is not there and everything else, because we just spread ourselves so thin in our feeling of service that, as my friend smartly say, we cannot pour from empty cup. You have to fill your cup first to be able to be that mom, that partner, that business leader, the business owner. So you can give it your all. You need to be okay first. And it just intertwines so much with the health, with physical health, with physical energy, and all that stuff we get when we put ourselves first and really take care of our health first. Cherie, this was beautiful, beautiful time. I knew it's gonna be really, really good episode. And I'm sorry I made you melting your eyes a little bit, because usually it's me crying.
Well, please understand there's no apology necessary. I am going to be transparent whether you bring it up or I bring it up. It comes. So I allow it to happen.
And this is that's why listening to podcasts could be so different than reading about somebody online, or just look at their website. You don't get the sense of who they are as deeper as when you can really listen to their story and listen to their own words and see their face and see their humility. Witness it by yourself. You can. We all have this special detection for fakeness, and if somebody's pretending, and there's no piece of pretense right here. It's just we go wherever it leads us. And I think that's why I really enjoy doing this interview, because I have a hard time to interview people that would not open up, and they would just keep that wall up, and it's kind of lost opportunity to meet you as a human being, I think. So I would have my last question. Well, maybe the second last. One would be, if I had the pleasure to meet your daughters today, what would they say about you?
Oh boy. Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. And
They
you just became grandma.
they would say very similar to what you said. My youngest one, Hope, wrote me a letter that back home in Florida, I have next to my workstation. And it says, summarizing it, it says that she's so excited to see what grows in Florida when I'm shining my light there.
Oh,
So
so
that's
they
the first.
see you for who you are. That's
Yep.
absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
So that's the first thing from Hope, of seeing me as the light, and that I shine my light. And Hosanna, my oldest, would likely say, I show up as me no matter where I'm at and no matter who I'm with.
Yeah. And you are.
Yeah.
And like I said, we never met in person, but there is you trans transform it over the screen as well. It's you, and you cannot be dim. It's your life cannot be dim, no matter how hard somebody tries. It's impossible. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
beautiful. And I'm so happy that your kids see you for who you are, because life wasn't always easy, but you were there for them, and they acknowledge it and appreciate it. It's so beautiful, because not everybody is so lucky. Sometimes kids turns against, and they blame parents for whatever, and it's just that just speaks volume of who you are as a mom as well,
Thank you.
as a leader. Yeah. Wow. And I didn't mean to make you choked up. Sorry. Like I said, that's usually my domain. I'm so good at that. But so my last question would be, to wrap this beautifully and positively, which it was the entire time, actually. It's a very generic question because we don't know what the situation is. What would you recommend to somebody who is considering seeking help and may not be ready yet, where they can start to improve things?
The first piece that's coming up to my mind and heart to answer this question is, I feel compelled to say, for me, the clarification of life coach. If I look at a continuum, I think about a continuum, and I think about myself when I went to a therapist, I went to a counselor. I literally went to Google and said, women Christian counselors near me, enter. Um, I was living in chaos. My life had taken a turn that I did not expect. And I needed to be out of this chaos. So I sought a therapist, a counselor that was able to work with me to give me the tools and strategies to move from chaos to functional, that I could function as a single mom, that I could function as an employee, I could function in society. That was a therapist, that was a counselor. For me, a life coach comes along a person as they are functioning in life and they want to be their optimal self. Similar to the metaphor you gave earlier, that an athlete is going to have a coach. I think about the Olympics that are going to be starting, and they're being coached to be their optimal self. And so that's what I see myself as a coach, to partner along, stand alongside, to listen with the objective ear, knowing that they are the hero of their story. They will get to their optimal self. They will become who they want to become. They will do what they want to do. They will have what they want to have. I already know that about them. It's in them. And I'm able to, as a coach, take them from the functional to the optimal. And so that would be the first piece that I would share with the person that maybe is not ready. Maybe they're in chaos, and seeking out a counselor or therapist would be the better fit for them. Mm-hmm. If they are ready for someone to listen objectively, maybe their partner, their family members, their best friend is tired of hearing about the XYZ or the ABC, and they just are like, I don't want to talk to them anymore. I am that open ear. I will actively listen. I'll watch the facial expressions. I'll listen to the tone on the phone. I will ask those open-ended questions for that person to dig underneath all those layers of labels, those labels that have been hurtful, not helpful, not hopeful. They've been harmful. And I will be that person for them. The last piece I would say, Vera, is if I were to do a lineup of life coaches, no one would know who the life coach is by just looking at us. Although I think you would tell me a different story based on the light that you say I exude. We don't know someone's history by looking at them. We can only think we might know part of their story, which is me people watching. However, back to the point of my story is, if we did a lineup of life coaches and the person listening doesn't know which coach to choose, and then they just push off and think, I just don't know where to start. Just start. Take the first step. Set one clarity call or one, gosh, I don't, all the different types of calls, discovery call, all the different types of things that we say. Set the first call, schedule the first call, meet with the potential coach. And if you're meeting with them and the words that they say, the tone that they use, you just are rubbed the wrong way, say, I appreciate the last 5 minutes that you've given me of my time, of your time, and say your goodbyes and go to the next coach.
Exactly. That's brilliant advice. Absolutely.
It's totally different than looking at a lineup of office chairs.
Yeah.
I know that I like that chair behind you because it has arms on it and I can rest my arms on it. If it doesn't have arms, it might not be useful for me. So it's totally different looking for a coach. You have to step in.
Yeah. And in order to be able to trust that coach, you really have to find out who resonates with you the most. And that's exactly, like, I don't know why people sometimes they are so afraid to schedule that call, because I think they may be afraid that that person will be trying to sell them or something.
Yeah.
But this is really discovery to see if you are right fit. And it's for both parties. Every coach would not work with everyone, because they also have a preference what type of people they are the best to serve. So it is for both parties to figure out if they are right fit, because if you find your right fit, the sky is the limit. You have that support that you never had in your back pocket. You have somebody who believes in you even when you don't, and you have a way to stop settling for average and reach for the stars. And I know it sounds like big dream for somebody who may be sitting in a situation that is settling for something, but we all have that burning desire in us to be or do something that we never had the guts. But it is never too late, and with the right support you can absolutely go there. And I would encourage you, if Cherie was the one who resonated with you today, and she surely resonated with me on many, many levels, there are people in the world that is their life mission to get you there. And you wouldn't believe how it feels to have the right person on your side that supports you no matter what. It's just absolutely encouraging to reach out and become the best version of yourself, because we only have this one life to live. So, and what I heard is the only regret people have at the end of their life is for the chances they never took. And I don't want you to be that person. So, Cherie, this was gorgeous, beautiful conversation. I thank you so much, and especially after, when you have things in your life that were busy, and you are a busy person. So I do appreciate your time, and I just hope this episode will resonate with many people that needs to hear it, that needs to be encouraged, and perhaps some of you will reach out to Cherie and see where your limits are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vera, for the opportunity to be able to sit and chat, hang out, and feel all the emotions. I do appreciate it.
It was beautiful. Thank you so much.